Finally, we have here a decent tablet spec coming out of China, and this is really essentially a Surface 3 clone because it's got specs that are very similar apart from the screen. So it's powered by an Atom X7 Z8700, has 4GB of double data rate 3 RAM that's running at 1600 MHz, 128GB Toshiba eMMC for your internal storage. Unfortunately, it's not running dual boot, and it has wireless AC, that is an Intel chipset, and it also has a fully laminated screen and a very nice build, a very premium build. In fact, one of the best build qualities I have seen out of China. So I'll give you a quick look here over the housing of it. So it's all made out of this alloy and very nice. You can see the Intel logo there on the back. We have some torque screws here holding in a back plate, and it has a kickstand, and it's a free position kickstand, so it's not a fixed position. Doesn't go back as far as the Surface Pro 3. Sorry, the Surface 3, not the Pro model, but it does recline enough there, I think, for most users. Now, it also comes with a keyboard that I don't have and supports an active stylus. I will be reviewing the keyboard and the stylus separately because I'm still waiting for a DHL shipment with both of those pieces there. So on the side here, you see we have a USB Type-C port. We have a micro HDMI out there, and also a full-size USB 3 port. Now this USB 3 port will power external hard drives, the Type-C port won't, but it will power at least flash drives. And we do have a 3.5mm audio jack right there. So we have a Windows button that it does work, but it's a little finicky. You have to really touch it right in the middle to get it to work properly and apply a little bit of pressure. You can see now it's finally propped up there. And there are two front-facing stereo speakers. The bottom here has a pogo pin connector there for the keyboard dock, which I will review later as just mentioned. And overall, the build of it is very good and feels really nice in hand. It weighs 649 grams, so it's not the lightest of devices, but it doesn't really feel that heavy when you're holding it. The weight distribution across the whole thing is good. There's no flex in it at all. Very good materials, and I really do like this build quality on it. So here we have a rear-facing 5-megapixel camera, and on the front there is another 2-megapixel camera there. And along the top you see the volume up and down, power, dual microphones there for recording. And right here is one of the things I'm not too happy with the design choice here. So that's actually a SIM micro SD card slot. That is like a SIM slot there for you see on mobile phones. So in order to use it, you have to use a tool to get the micro SD cards in and out, which I find slightly annoying. And they don't even actually include one in the box, which is really odd. Normally they would at least include one of those. Obviously, Vido thinks that we're going to have one lying around. So in order to use that, you can't just quickly hot swap micro SDs there. So that's a bit of a flaw there. I personally think there with the design choice. So unlike most of the tablets out of China that I review, literally 90% of them do not have fully laminated displays. This one does, and has a much more premium feel to it, having that fully laminated display. So you get absolutely no gap between the IPS panel and the digitizer glass that's on the top. Now, because it is a cheaper tablet, it doesn't have Gorilla Glass or any kind of scratch-resistant glass. As far as I know, it's just using soda lime glass on the top. So it does come pre-applied with a screen protector. So you might want to be a little bit more careful if you do end up owning one of these, that I would not actually use this without a screen protector. So very good brightness. Well, it's not too bad actually. It's 290 lumens of brightness. It wouldn't be the brightest I have tested, but it seems quite good. But I have noticed that there is something funny going on with the brightness setting. So that is 0%, 25% is exactly the same, and 50 is marginally higher, 75 as well, and that is 100% brightness, which at the moment is overpowering the camera a little bit with the current exposure settings I have. So the resolution is 1920 by 1200, that's 16 by 10 ratio. And apart from that, I find that it's a very good screen to use. The digitizer they have used on it is very fluid, very fast. I find the accuracy to be really good. It seems to have been optimized quite well for touch, the screen, and I haven't had any real issues at all minimizing and maximizing windows within Windows here. No problems at all with that, and very fluid. In fact, one of the best, I think, in terms of touch accuracy and response that I have used. So just have a look at the viewing angles on there, see if there's any light leakage on the panel. I'm just going to turn off the lights. So you see here the viewing angles being an IPS panel. They're not bad at all. There is a little bit of, you can see what, like a color shift or dimming down. That is actually only really happening on camera, and I think it's to do with the screen protector that's on there. But it is not a bad screen at all, and definitely one of the better ones that I have used, thanks to the fact that, yes, it is fully laminated. So a one glass solution, they also call it. So it has a 128 gigabyte Toshiba eMMC, and I did benchmark that, like I always do. And these are the speeds here, so not bad at all, with a 71 sequential write speeds, 130 read, and the random 4K speeds aren't actually bad at all, considering this is a eMMC 4.5.1 spec. Now, the USB 3 port does run at full speeds there, and as mentioned in the beginning, it will power external hard drives, but the Type-C port on the side there won't. That will power, however, flash drives, and there's the flash drive connected up to the Type-C port, got the same exact speeds as USB 3, so it's only running USB 3, it's only supporting charging and data. It does not support display out. Display out is run via the micro HDMI. Now, the 128 gigabyte micro SD card that you saw in the beginning of the clip, that is in there at the moment, and those are the speeds I got, which isn't too bad for that card. That is more or less what I get on other tablet. It is running at full speed there, so that is good. Now, Windows, when you first start it up, you get about 108 gigabytes free, which isn't too bad at all. At the moment, I have 70, so it's really good to have that size drive on there, and that's something you can get on the 4 gigabyte model of the Surface 3. So this has that same spec there too. And the micro SD card, I haven't had any problems with it disappearing from the device manager or unloading or coming out of sleep. It seems to always be there and work for me at the moment. If I do have any problems with that, I will report back on that. So I ran the usual benchmarks I like to run, and here we can see, okay, these are just the benchmarks, obviously, of the Atom X7 are a lot better than the X5, but still, this is still quite a way off from a Core M tablet like the Core M3s, which get around 2,400 single score. This is just under 1,000, but that is literally on par with other Atom X7s I have tested out. So here's the iStorm Extreme score. Now, I have seen a lot higher on the Surface 3 that I reviewed probably about a year ago. It gets slightly higher. I think it has better thermals. For example, this score here got 18,000. Now, my Surface 3 got, I think it was about 23,000 or 25,000, so definitely faster there. But that is a lot faster than the likes of the other Atoms. The one I normally test out, which is the Atom X5 Z8700, that runs at 1.8 gigahertz. This is 2.4. So it's a bump. It's definite bump up in speed compared to those other Atom X5s. This score as well, not too bad. Now the wireless, I managed to get reasonably good speeds. My desktop got about that same exact speeds there. And I was a little concerned about the wireless reception on this having an all alloy body on it. Normally that affects the wireless speeds. There's no plastic in there for the reception of the antennas. And I did notice that if I went downstairs furthest away from my wireless router, that yes, speeds do drop off a little bit, but drop off about the same as other devices that I have. I haven't really noticed that this has a big difference there, but I would say yes, maybe a little slower than some of the other ones the further you get away. But all in all, the Intel Wireless AC3165 performs really well, and I am definitely happy with that. It's a lot better than the wireless N that we normally see on these devices. Now, Windows performance feels a lot snappier and a lot quicker than using the Atom X8300 devices. Those ones, yeah, they can sometimes get a little bit slow, but this definitely feels faster. Doing some multitasking, for example, I'm running Edge here, those Edge tabs, but also in Chrome. Chrome feels a lot smoother than the Atom X5s, so it just performs quite well. And I will do a quick test here. So I need to reload that. There we go. Of course, it crashed on me when I went to test it Chrome, so that wasn't good. But what I'm going to do is just do a quick test. I've got an ad.
Hi guys, Chris here, and welcome to my i7 book review. So it's Cube's latest tablet. It looks very similar to the i7.
So this at the moment is running in 480p. So let's see if we get any drop frames in 1080p in Chrome, because Chrome can drop frames a little bit. I turn on the stats for nerds. So only one drop frame at the moment. Of course, that is only 1080p. So if I run this in 4K now, this is where Chrome has problems. Edge will play this flawlessly. Edge doesn't have any issues with 4K. So let's see how it goes now in 4K.
Tablets, we were missing that last year.
Okay, 4 drop frames, 5, and you can see now that it is stuttering.
And it also has a USB 3.1 Type-C.
So still Chrome will not play, even with this Atom X7, will not play well with 4K video. So apart from streaming 4K video in Chrome, it will run 1080p, fine. At 1080p 60 frames per second, we'll also sometimes get a few little stutters in there. But apart from that, Chrome performance is actually quite good, and Edge is very good. Edge is really smooth, and no problems at all. And the touchscreen really does help with the experience when browsing and using the internet. Now we'll quickly show you the kind of thermals I got from just testing out a little bit of gaming, which I'm going to test shortly. Let's just show you the temperatures that it did get up to, the Atom X7 here. So you can see here that it triggered thermal throttling, which isn't good to see. We don't want to see that at all. Got up to 87 degrees. And this was, I was running it, see there, for 5 hours and 42 minutes. And during that time, I was doing all sorts of things. So I was running those benchmarks. I played a little bit of Counter-Strike. And I did run all of those benchmarks just one after another, just getting it really hot. And I also did connect it up and charge at the same time. So this is worst case scenario thermals. If you're not gaming, it's not going to get that hot. I noticed that if I was just doing normal use, normally it would hover around 50, 60, 65 degrees around there. So never getting really that hot. But it does get warm to the touch just behind the top here. So the surface of it gets a little bit warm, but nothing concerning at all. Now before I go on to test out some gaming performance on it, I would just also mention the battery life. So battery life and charging times too. So at the moment, I haven't actually had this on for very long. That's not a good example to show you. So just run through here, battery life. So I managed to get at this test here that I was doing. This was using Chrome and Edge at the same time, but I didn't have too many browsers open. Too many tabs open within Chrome. I had about 2 or 3. And Edge had about 4 open there. So I managed to get 5 hours and 43 minutes from 100%. It's telling me I still had 8 hours and 15 minutes left, which, yes or no, depending on what you're doing. I honestly think the runtime you can get is around about 6.5 hours. You can probably get about 7. Now, if you were just watching movies and you put the wireless and flight mode there and that turns off the Bluetooth as well, you will get probably, I would say, 7 hours of just video watching there. But this was with the the screen set to 0%. So that was on the lower setting, which is still too bright anyway. And yeah, the battery life I think is actually good. It's a lot better than what I thought it would be, because I was expecting, to be honest, around about 5 hours. Now the battery life looks like it's going to be 9,000 milliamp hours. Now they did mention the official specs on retailer websites that it was 7,300. I think they made a change to that, because it does seem definitely larger than that capacity that they claimed. Now when it comes to charge times, using the supplied 12 volt 2 amp fast charger, I noticed that when the tablet's in use, charging times were a little disappointing, only charging around 3.6 watts, and that will take about 7 hours if you're using it with the screen on and everything and you're streaming video. It's going to take a really long time to charge. But when I turned it off, and plugged it in and let it charge completely powered off, it charged under 3 hours. I didn't quite gauge exactly the charge time, but it was around about 3 hours, from about 10% to 100%. So they charge quite quickly. So yes, it does charge fast, but only when off. When on, very slow. One of the worst features of the Vido W10 Elite here is the speakers. So it does have 2 front-facing speakers, left and right, and you would think they would sound okay, but let's have a listen to them now. And I'll put the volume up to 100%. So you can hear they are distorting there, and they literally have no bass whatsoever. They are very tinny. And what I will do is also run an application called DFX Audio Enhancer, see if we can get any improvements. Now you can hear that does help a little bit, but it's not making that much of a difference. Normally this application can actually help out a lot with the sound. but in this case, not very good at all. Luckily, the 3.5mm headphone jack that is on the side here, sorry, on the right hand side, this supports loud audio, and it's very clear and has a good sound to it. Not bad at all, and definitely compensates a little bit for those really poor speakers that completely let this tablet down. So the front-facing camera is a 2 megapixel unit. I find that it's good for video as long as you're in good lighting, and the frame rate of it doesn't seem to be slow. It seems to be running about 30 frames per second. And I'll just show you a quick image that I took a snap. It is alright. I mean, it's a little grainy, and the rear camera, the 5 megapixel rear camera, is an autofocus unit, and it takes okay photos. But to be honest, use your mobile phone if you need to take any serious photos, because it's going to be just so much better than a tablet camera. And you don't want to be that person that looks like they're walking around with a iPhone, the iPad taking photos, because that just looks wrong. I mean, who takes photos with tablets? Only silly tourists. So the Vido W10 Elite doesn't actually ship as a dual boot. It just comes with Windows 10 Home, but there is a way to run Android, and that is use Remix 3 OS for PC. What I've done here is actually install that, and that will install it into the hard drive, and you get a dual boot selector, and you can run then Android, well, Remix OS, and Windows 10, so a proper reboot setup. But it does have its minor setbacks, because it's not fully compatible yet with, at least with this model and a lot of these Atom tablets. You can see the screen here is around the wrong way. The webcam's at the bottom. The touchscreen is working fine. Performance is actually really good, not bad at all. And the sound doesn't work, and you cannot control the brightness of the screen. So those are the major things that aren't working, but it still will allow you to, for example, what I'm doing now, run Clash of Clans. At least you can run those Android games that you like, and the performance of it doesn't seem too bad. So I'm just going to minimize this here and just quickly show you. So wireless works because it's got the Intel chipset. The Realtek chipset has problems, but wireless is working. I did run Antutu, and I got a score of 76,000, which is quite a good score. That's probably around about the same speed of a Snapdragon 650, the Adreno 510 graphics, I think that one runs. So all in all, I mean, it's all right. And if someone can do some work on this and get those drivers to work and get the screen to work and the sound to work and things, then you could, yeah, definitely run a proper dual boot setup on this tablet. Have a look at some gaming now. First up, League of Legends. Now the frames per second will be displayed in the upper left hand corner, so keep an eye on that. That will give you an idea of the performance and the kind of frames you can get out of these games. I'm just going to go for a custom game here. So Summon is Rift, 1 bot on my side and 2 on the opposition. This is what I normally test, just to get a rough idea of the performance.
All the world on one arrow.
Okay, so let's have a look at the current video settings. At the moment, it's 1024 by 768. Frames are around 70 frames per second. They're very low settings. I'm going to change that resolution now to, I think it should be able to run it, actually, in the native screen resolution. So let's try that. Okay, so very low settings. 50 frames per second. And that is 1920 by 1200. So the bots have spawned, and it's still hovering around about 50 frames per second. Very quick around the map. A little bit of action going on there. So I definitely think at native resolution on the lower settings, you're going to get playable frame rates. And what I would consider playable for this type of game would be at least getting over 30 frames per second. Okay, so it is dipping down to around 38 frames per second. That's about the lowest it's getting at the moment. Actually down to 33 there. As long as it keeps above 30, I think we should be okay. You can always lower the resolution, of course. Okay, so I'm going to test out some Counter-Strike Global Offensive now. That's the next game. Here the speakers sound really loud actually, not too bad because this is a very loud audio clip, this one. So these are the settings I'm going to use, 1280 by 800. Everything's on low. Okay, it's debatable whether the multi-core rendering should be enabled or disabled. Some say it gives a boost, some say it doesn't. I'm just going to go with this, okay? So we'll see how that runs with the Dust 2 map. Dust 2, and it's pistols, headshots only, I think, so I'm not even going to be able to kill anyone, probably. But that's not the point. I'm not trying to show off my skills or anything, because I have none. This is just have a look at the frame rate, so let's see how it performs. Okay, let's see how long I last. Probably not long at all. Okay, so 39 frames per second. Oops. I don't know if it's free for all. I think it is. Just got lucky there. Or unlucky. No, it was on my own thing. No. Oh, so I think I just killed a friendly. Real bad. And did again. So the frame rate seems okay. I mean, you probably could lower that resolution. Okay, so it's not... It is free for all. Not a team deathmatch. It's just deathmatch. Alright, I think that's enough of my really poor gameplay. I'm going to test out a Windows Store game now, which is Modern Combat 5, which can run quite slow. It's interesting to see how that one runs. So I'm going to control this one here with an Xbox 360 controller. Make it a bit easier for me. Alright, that frame rate doesn't seem too bad. It's a little bit smoother. This can be really choppy on the Atom X5s. But on the X7 here, so far, seems a little better. Still seems to get a little bit of lag there that I can detect.
Strike through to Monarch. Target eliminated. Confirm extraction location. Over. Contact. Allied 2, this is Monarch. Advance to extraction point B. Over. You heard him. Come on.
Alright, so this one is definitely running so much better than Atom X5 Z8700. Very obvious because on those Atoms, the lower ones, this thing just has really poor frame rate, almost unplayable. This, on the other hand, is a lot better and a lot more playable. So that's a very quick look there at gaming here on the Vido W10 Elite. Now from that little bit of gaming there, the temperatures got up to 87 degrees, which is exactly the same as I got when I was benchmarking it. So you see that it picked up to 87 and the average temperatures hovered around the 71 degree mark. And what was getting really hot was actually the GPU, I think was the one. So the GPU temperatures there So thermal throttling, yes, that did of course happen, which isn't good to see, but it is unfortunately a very common thing that happens, especially on this higher clocked X7 Z8700. So to recap my findings, this is probably one of the best build qualities I have seen on a Chinese tablet. It's very nice, very premium, feels really great in hand, and the screen is very nice to use. It's great having a fully laminated display, but I do not like the fact that the 0% brightness, which is what it's currently on at the moment, is just far too bright. That's a little annoyance there. Hopefully Vido is going to have a fix for that one so they can be at least solved. And the kickstand's great. I just don't really like the fact that they decided to go with a SIM tray, SIM slot style micro SD card slot. So if you have one of those tools around, great, but if you don't happen to have one on you and someone hands you a micro SD card, say, hey, here we go, here's the photos, what do? You're going to have to find a needle or a pin or something to poke in there and try and get it out. A really silly design choice, I think that is. So the other thing is the speakers. The speakers on there, okay, they're probably sufficient loudness, but they just have distortion and no bass, and they just sound horrible. They are not good speakers at all. They are not fitting for this price range, and this is trying to be a premium tablet. You need to put premium or at least a lot better quality speakers than what this currently has in it. And despite that, I do like the performance of it. It performs quite well. Okay, there is thermal throttling. That is not good to see. Never good to see that. Unfortunately, that's what most of these Atom X7s all seem to be suffering from. That they just run too hot. So that's when you're gaming, it's going to get hot there. And the performance will eventually suffer because it will turn on the thermal throttling. So it clocks down the clock rates and it'll run a little slower there. But besides that, okay, yeah, it's going to affect the performance of gaming. So if you're a gamer, I wouldn't even be looking at Atoms anyway. Corium's minimum for that, really. And the battery life has come out better than I thought it would be. Now, I can't comment on the keyboard or the stylus because I'm still waiting for those to come. As mentioned, that will be another video that'll be a follow-up of this review, and I will only just cover the keyboard and the stylus and see how they are. Hopefully they are going to include or have a really nice type cover for it that's going to just complete and finish the whole package here. Thank you for watching this review. Hopefully I will see you back in the channel with more up and coming videos on tech from China. Bye for now.